Hey guys, welcome to Own Your Happy. And this week I have Jay Honey, which is not her name. Her name is actually Jennifer Honig. And I couldn't remember her name because she's just Jay Honey in my books. That's like just the way I think of her. When I go to look for you on Facebook, I have to really think about what your name is. So can you just change your Facebook name for me to Jay Honey? That would be much appreciated. But Jay Honey is a life strategist who uses human design as the foundation for like helping her clients rediscover who they actually are. And I think it's uber fascinating. Everybody knows that I'm into human design these days, but not enough to read a book. I don't want to learn it for myself. I just want to have conversations about it. I am so glad that there's people out there like you guys that are like taking the schooling and reading the books and learning all of the things, because it is so massive to me, human design. I just want you to tell me how it pertains to me. I think that's what clients of yours will probably want. We don't need to know all of the things, but we need to know about ourselves. And before we even hopped on the call, actually, we were talking about how kids really need, like how beautifully amazing it would be if kids knew before they even graduate high school, all of this stuff about themselves, and the trajectory of their life would be so different. Like I was saying to Jen that I didn't know what an empath was till I was like 34 or 35.
Mm-hmm.
That's a major part of my life.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, let's just start with, where did you start? Jay Honey, 15 years ago, where were you at?
Ooh, let's take it back.
Yeah.
2005, I was just finishing my master's degree. My undergrad's in psychology. I have a master's in sports psychology and kinesiology. So I was literally like just a fresh college grad looking for jobs. And I took a job at a university in North Carolina, teaching and doing athletic training. So
Cool.
by profession, I have 20 years as a healthcare provider. And the psychology piece for me, like bringing in like holistic healthcare, right? It's never just about like physical health. It's always about, there's a psychological aspect to injury. There's a psychological aspect to everything. There's 6 dimensions of health. Like if you're going to look at holistic healthcare. So that's,
What are those 6 dimensions?
well, we've got physical,
Mm-hmm.
we've got emotional, social, right? We're wired as human beings to have connection. There's mental or intellectual, spiritual, and environmental.
Mm-hmm.
And health isn't static, right? It's dynamic. Like if your physical health is off, we don't feel good either emotionally, potentially, or in our environment. So they all interconnect, and they're all going to affect the other.
Yes.
That's why we cannot just look at our physical health. We have to look at the other things that are going on under the hood.
Oh, I love it so much. You know, that speaks to my soul. Like I am the biggest, I don't have it all figured out. And again, actually, I don't want to know it all. I don't need to know the science behind it, but I am a firm believer. It is just an inner knowing of physical ailments don't just come from a germ or genetics.
Your provider, I struggle with that. When I learned about Louise Hay from like, I think my very first coach, 2-3 years ago, I was like, no, I have blisters because I just walked 11 miles across Paris. Like these blisters are not because of this psychosomatic cause. Like, no, that's not how healthcare works. I struggle with that because there is a cause, but there's the underlying that it's like, oh, and if I look at knee joints, I've had 3 knee surgeries, a foot surgery, knee joints, stubborn pride and anger. And if I go back, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But yes, totally was me.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest piece of it, is whether we're ready to own it or not.
Yes.
I think for me, like this isn't something that I've practiced all my life, but in the last few years, for sure, I'm like, yeah, I know what this is from. Like if I have a cold or if I get a headache or I would get cold sores for a bit. I know what this is from, but I'm not ready to own it. So I'm not actually going to subscribe to the belief of Louise Hay or any of that stuff. This bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. But when I'm ready to own it, it it dissipates. It's so weird. So
Yep.
weird.
Every time I don't feel supported, I get back pain. Or
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm not supported, even though I am, if I ask for the help.
Yeah, that is a big thing for both.
There's
Yeah.
that.
Is that
Even,
a manifesting generator thing? Or is
I
that
think this,
for in our chart?
I think it's a human thing.
Just human in general?
It's a condition thing.
Yeah.
We aren't supposed to ask for help. Or somewhere we learned that, women handle it all. We do it all. We
We
don't
do.
need. Or what did I kept seeing this in Facebook the last few days. People are reposting and reposting. Extreme independence is an emotional response to trauma.
I agree. 100%. I actually, we didn't plan to talk about this, but like just quickly looking back at my life, absolutely. I had a very unhealthy relationship in my early 20s. And then with my husband now, I was so independent for so many years with him. Like, God love him for getting through that with me because I was feisty and don't tell me what to do. And I have my own money. And he was just such a gentle soul through it all and really helped me grow thankfully through all of that. But it was like I needed, and even from childhood, like my parents are divorced when I was an older teenager, and I was just like, I can do it on my own. I don't need anybody else ever. Yep. I don't want to feel, and I don't, it's hard to explain sometimes to some people because I love my husband to pieces. Don't want anybody else in my life. He's amazing. I know we're meant to be soulmates forever, but he doesn't complete me anymore. Mm. And it's like really a fascinating place to get to because I was so stuck on like nobody completed me before either because I was so independent and so sure of myself and like so stuck in that. But now it's this cool peacefulness on the other side of it is like, no, like I'm whole, I'm good. I really enjoy you in my life, but it doesn't have to be. Unfortunately, if something happened, I wouldn't die. I wouldn't be done. I know it would be horrible and horrific and I would get through it and it would be okay on the other side. I would still miss that relationship for sure, but it's not the be all end all. Whereas I think sometimes we're raised to think that we complete each other in a relationship and that's the only way. I don't know. I can't even put good words to it, but
we each have to stand as a whole self to have the connection.
yes.
Right? Like I need you, but I don't need you.
I have a friend that wrote a song that I do my podcast with, and it's called I gotta look it up. I botch it every time. I think it's called I don't need you, I want you, or I want you, I don't need you. And it's just like the most beautiful. I was like, yes, that's exactly what has gone through my mind of all of the times and being able to, because my husband was a little bit hurt when I was trying to explain it to him. And I was like, no, I'm not articulating this well to you at all because it's not what I mean. I don't. But it was like, I want you in my life and that's even more exciting. I want you to be a part of it. I don't need you to complete me or
because society says that we're supposed to be with XYZ and have all of these things and do all of that.
Exactly. And after 10 years that I'm still excited to have you in my life, that's the part I like. That's the part where I'm like, we're in it for the long haul because we're not in a cycle. We've never really been that type of cycle person anyways, or a couple, but it's just who we are. Okay. So you were in healthcare.
Yeah. And teaching, collegiate settings. So like for me, I've been a teacher and a coach my whole life. Like I just didn't really see it in that way. Mm-hmm. And athletic training is very, like, it's a healthcare field. So like teaching students how to be athletic trainers, right? So like as a preceptor, advising students, like, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
Like walking them through all of the, the life events that happen in college and getting a job and all of those things. So
Yep.
I spent a lot of time doing that. And then here in California as well. The only thing I wasn't doing when I first moved here was still practicing. Like I took a totally administrative role, which I quickly realized, like, grass is always greener, right? Like
Yeah.
healthcare, it's hard to have a work-life balance sometimes. So I was like, oh, I'll just teach. I love that. But that wasn't exactly it either. But yeah, a lot of time teaching, a lot of time in healthcare, and getting frustrated because Western medicine, it's so reactive, it's not proactive, or we could do so much more with prevention. That's the primary thing with athletic training. Let's prevent injuries from happening so that we can watch sports and eat, bonbons on the sideline. Watch our kids, our athletes, like perform.
Yep.
So their cheerleader, and like no one ever gets hurt. That's the ideal.
I love it. And then you did a big switch in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did that come about?
Ooh. So about 2 years into being here in California, so I spent 7 years in North Carolina, a quick hop to Arizona for a year. Not for me. It's too brown. It's not enough green. And then now 7 years here in California. So 4 years ago, I'm going to say this, I was let go, fired, contract not renewed.
Oh, I
Burns.
love it. Let's just stick on that for a second. That happens for a reason.
But yes, 100%, not seeing it in the moment, reactive, not, I was in a not great place of not authentically me, total loss of, no boundaries, reactive, hair trigger temper, poor communicator, didn't know how to process my emotions.
Mm-hmm. Was your identity wrapped in that job? Like now that you're out of that?
My identity is wrapped up as a teacher and an athletic trainer, and like the story I tell myself, or the story that I guess was still holding on to now, even like athletic training is not like nursing where you can just move to any city and get a job. Sometimes you have to go where the athletic training jobs are. There aren't athletic trainers in every high school, even though there should be, right? Like caring for kids in sports and all of the things. I had just bought a house. So.
Ooh, that was a doozy of a year.
Because my therapist told me that, he's like, well, what are you running from? Why do you keep moving? And I was like, well, I'm a military brat. Like I've moved my whole life. Like it's just geography. Yeah, I was totally running, thinking that every next place would be that, like I'll be happy when I have this salary. I'll be happy when I have, I'm only teaching. I'll be happy when, like we all play this game of, well, I'll wait until. So, yeah, I totally lost my train of thought there.
Okay, you bought a house.
Bought a house. So then I looked for local athletic training jobs. And again, there's lots of different settings for athletic training. So then I ended up working in a manufacturing plant, providing healthcare to employees. Right? So working more on that work comp side. And again, healthcare is still really proactive. You still have to build rapport. These employees working, like the factory employee mentality is, it's very similar to athletics. You got an industrial athlete, and you've got a sports athlete. You've got a coach and a manager. You've got the athletic director and the plant manager.
Yeah.
And then work is the game. So they still don't want to come report their injuries to you because it's their livelihood.
Yep.
Or, this, that, and the other thing, or pressure from the coach.
I was going to say, and the pressure to be perfect at what you're doing, and that it's shameful or weak to have any sort of like not even a physical injury, but a mental
Yeah,
injury
it's
of any sort.
very like it was a very interesting setting. Don't get me wrong. And like one of my superpowers is building rapport and getting people to like want to be better, want to feel better, want to get better. Um, but that wasn't for me either. So, in the middle of that, because you're getting at my flip into dog training, right?
Yeah.
So again, here I am working all these hours. I made the most money that I've ever made, and I was miserable. Hey, started dreading going to work. I also have a nonprofit dog rescue. I didn't have it then, but I was doing rescue from this really, from a place of like emotional martyrdom. Like the more I was tying my self-worth to how many dogs that I could save, foster, adopt out. Like at one point I had 16 dogs at my house. I rented to a college student. She helped me with like dog care.
Yeah.
Um, so again, no boundaries, all the things, too much on my plate, doing it for the wrong reasons, not a sense of who I was anymore or what I really wanted to be doing.
Yep.
Um, or not knowing how to do, like knowing that there's like, there's gotta be more, there's more.
Yeah.
I don't know how to find it because I don't know who I am anymore. So
Isn't it so frustrating? Like I've been in a similar situation where like I know there's more, I know I'm meant for more, but could you just give me the book or the manual on how I get there? Mm-hmm.
exactly. And so a lot of my life lessons, because I might be stubborn, because it might take me a few times to learn the same lesson, the universe just throws me a bitch slap here. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, I've already swear. I swear.
It a bitch slap, or you know what? We're gonna run you over with a truck, lady. So in grad school, I adopted my very first dog. He was 15, so 3 years ago, and I moved to California and I got a second dog. And you never spend any, like, I had so many other dogs in the house, so many other things going on that like the training of my dog, I made a lot of mistakes. I did all of the things wrong that, you know, like create behavior issues in dogs. So I had a reactive dog.
Oh, the shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, my second dog, she killed my first dog.
Oh, Jen.
Yeah, while I was outside, while I was like slinging poop, all of the foster dogs saw it. You know, it was like, it wasn't, again, it wasn't the first time she's hurt another dog. It wasn't the first time that she'd hurt him. First time it was stitches, then it was more stitches and more severe injury. So like, then I'm like, okay, I've got a training and training and training. And oddly enough, the guy that I worked with, that got me into dog training, he was always like, you seem really stressed right now. Like, let's work on you. I was like, I'm fine. I need this fixed.
Uh-huh.
Not broken. Like, let's work on your attitude, your energy. And I was like, this is silly. But that really got me thinking again. And for a long time, for like 6 months, I was so mad at her.
Yeah.
You know, cause he was 15. I was going to have to make a decision soon. He was losing mobility, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the universe always just speeds up my timeline for me. But they send me messages through my dogs.
Just pause. For anybody that just heard that, you've probably heard me talk about Jay Honey before and how she will shoot energy like you can't believe. And the honey bomb that just came through there, Jay Honey, was strong. So if anybody's like, what just happened in my ear? That's Jay Honey's power. And emotion, because there's a lot of emotion in this story.
If I'm feeling strong about something, or it's sometimes when I'm lying to myself, not being totally honest, yeah, I'll totally drop an energy bomb.
I wish we all came with that so that we knew.
Liar.
It's like your signal on top. But I think this was just from you talking about what an emotional time that would have been. So you were talking about the 6 months after and how you were going to have to make the decision, but the universe just throws you. I really believe the universe throws us what we need, not what we freaking want.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
It's up to us to how we receive it. I am not a perfect receiver by any means. I have had many hard lessons multiple times over along the road as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a system of threes. I've kind of seen a pattern here, right? Like here's a minor, here's the little like, then there's the, and then that like, well, let's just knock you over. Let's just drop you to your knees.
Yeah.
So that was actually on Mother's Day of 2017. I had to call my mom. Like, she was like, oh my gosh, do I need to hop on a plane right now? I'm like, no. But yeah, it took me another 6 months to really like pull my head out of the sand. Like,
yeah.
Here's what you have to do. And I then took a dog to a dog training seminar. Not even my dog, a foster dog.
Yeah.
So I met this like badass woman who basically had me figured out and pegged in about 8.5 minutes and had me crying. And oh God, what did she say to me? It was just like, when are you like dropping an F-bomb and like, when are you gonna fucking pull your head out of your ass?
Yeah. And is that what you needed? Did it help?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So from there I started boundaries. I'm not like, dogs got adopted, not taking any more in. I sent my dog to training. I euthanized a dog. That was a big part of it. Who actually, again, like, this is when I started getting into animal communication and learning like that I communicate with them in a way that's different. Like I don't have conversations with them. I get a sense like starting to meditate and starting to really slow down, right? Like when we're in the rat race and we're just in that hamster wheel, if we don't take the time to stop and slow down and like listen, like that's when we figure out what our gifts are. That's when we figure out what our superpowers are.
Totally agree.
That's like, so 2018 spring, I sent her to training. I had people helping me communicate with these other dogs and like his sole purpose in my life. So there was another dog that started it, right? And I only had him because he wasn't adoptable. So I could manage him.
Yeah.
But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Not every dog is meant to walk this planet. Every dog has a divine purpose. His divine purpose was to teach me that you can't save us all. And that's literally the reason he was here. Like every dog has taught me something. But like through an animal communicator, it's like, yeah, you can let him go. Like this is what he's here to teach you.
So powerful. I think that is beyond just animals. I think we stay in jobs. I know a lot of teachers that are amazing teachers that have a higher purpose than just teaching within the education system that they're teaching within. But that's
because they're so limited.
And I'm thinking of one in particular actually that just the other day was saying to me, I get messages from students all the time of how much I helped them. Yes, you do. And you will continue to get messages in whatever form of work that you decide to do in the future. I just feel like it needs to be on a bigger scale for yourself. I just see that for you. There's certain things I can just see, right? Like we all have our own gifts when we slow down. I can see the potential in you. I don't have all the baggage attached to why you can't do it. So I don't see that part. I just see the like cool stuff.
Interesting that you phrase it that way, because you are also a 2-4, I believe, like our human design profiles. It is often so hard for us to see ourselves, what we see for others, and that's just part of who we are. Um, yeah.
I think that's beautiful that you found animal communication so that you could learn that from the dogs because they were already a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what all, like, just powerful lessons through these. I'm a dog lover, so anybody that's not a dog lover, you won't understand, but I totally get it. There was a point last year where I was walking my dog off leash and I was on a call with Jay Honey and I was like, he won't come back. He just won't. She's like, you need to calm down because inside you were freaking out. And I was like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. And you're like, no, your dog's telling you you're not. And now I do. Like, I don't think he's actually not come back. Knock on wood.
Since then.
For months now, but I do know that I have a calmness. Or if he starts kind of acting out in the house, I think of you right away and I'm like, check yourself, Jen. You need to go meditate or do something or get in nature or whatever that looks like that day. But they do let us know.
Dogs are my emotional barometer. And it's never, you never get the dog that you want, you get the dog that you need. And like, so sending Daisy to training, started working with this coach. And so really since 2018, I've had either one or multiple coaches at a time, like different kind of programs. Again, universal shove, like April, when I started working with that, the very first month I started working with a coach. So like, okay, you're learning, you're trying to up level, you're trying to figure it out. And the universe is, well, you keep talking all of this talk and, you never really walk the walk always. So that first month, and I was turning 40 that year. So I had this huge, like massive Europe extravaganza trip for my 40th birthday. I'd already taken the time off from work. Well, it's a third-party contractor. So the company, like the factory that I work for, their company decided to cut the contract. So the company I worked for is like, well, you're amazing and we see you in leadership, but not yet. And like dangling these carrots and like, we'll get you there. We love you so much. Like, we'll find a different place for you. Well, the different place was like an even further commute, which I already loathed. Like, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And it was for a graveyard position. I'm like, no. They're like, we'll wait till you get back from Europe. We'll hold this spot, da 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 da. And like, I didn't even know what, like, but it felt funny in my body. And it was just like, no. My body was telling me no. And like, for whatever reason, because again, I still wasn't super aware of like the energy body and chakras and a gut response and like that being part of like my design. I just said no. And I'm like, I'm going to start a dog training business and I'm going to start my own rescue.
So he did.
How dog training because I've been dealing with the fallout of what my dogs were teaching me. And then like dog training is personal development because again, behavior shows up when the house is out of balance.
Yeah.
If people want to fix their dog, we have to look in the mirror.
I totally agree. I think it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important for people to realize that about animals. Mm-hmm. I think we see it a lot in dogs, but do you agree that it happens maybe in other, I'm thinking horses for some reason, but.
Well, and horses are so energetic in their responses to people. And like that's a piece of my big vision is using horses as therapy for humans, animals, right? Like an all animal rescue with a stable full of therapy horses, because that's where we learn more about ourselves and to control our energy.
Mm-hmm.
We go in like, this, that forces me like, I don't want you to halter me. Like, no, I'm going to run around and like run away from you.
Yeah.
So it's also paying into like people that are like, oh, you have a way with animals. I'm like, yeah, you probably have a way with your energy, right? Like the frequency that they're sending out. So, but I think it's also paying attention. Like if there's an animal that keeps showing up in your field, like, why do I keep seeing blue jays or bluebirds, or, like you see an owl or like whatever.
Yep.
What does it mean? Owl spirit, or, like what's the meaning of this?
Animals are so fascinating to me. It was my first, I don't even know what to call it. It wasn't like an outer body experience, but it was like, what is going on in my mind in a meditation where that's what I would get flashes of. And it wasn't a full animal I would never get. I would get just their eyes through here. And I would know that's a baboon or that's a tiger or whatever. And so I was starting to meditate and I was like, I'm such a weirdo. What is going on with my life?
They're just messages from source.
I love it. I fully enjoy it. I had two blue jays in my backyard yesterday and Blake's like, that's weird. I haven't seen a blue jay for, I think we saw a couple in the spring. And I was like, yeah, they're here to see me. Thanks.
Like, I was recently up in Mount Shasta, this like magical vortex of like, mysticism and powerfulness. And like, I saw a robin. I'm like, I don't know the last time I saw a robin. So what does robin mean? Oh,
It's super fascinating. This morning I had an elephant, but you just never know. Like I just think the animal world is so fascinating. Do you Stephen Farmer?
Do I what?
Have you read Stephen Farmer?
Mm-mm.
He has a pocket guide. I don't have it up here because I was looking at my blue jays yesterday downstairs. Um, and it's just a little pocket guide of the animals. And I do really enjoy his. There's a couple of websites that I like too when I'm on the go, but I do really like his little pocket book. He has a bigger, farther Animal Speak, I think is his other book. It was a little deep. I should try to read it maybe now that I'm more into these things. But when I first picked it up, I was like, that's a little much for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll check it out. So how did you get into human design then? The plot thickens.
Plot thickens. Hello, universal pathway.
Yep.
I think I learned about that early 2019. So like I've met some really amazing people throughout the different coaching programs that I've been in, and my friend Emma, our friend Emma, what am I talking about? She brought it out and I was like, oh, this is like really fascinating, but it's like super complex, and like, it's such a mixture of so many different like systems and science and astrology and, all of it. So it's like, okay. And really like you can learn about your type and you can read a little bit, but if you're not, it's an experiment.
Yep.
It's a way for us to experience life as the most truest version of like the version of ourselves that was born. And by the time we're 7, we have basically like all of our limiting beliefs and stories and things that we've experienced like kind of get set as the pattern that's running in the back of our head all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if lost my train of thought again.
It's okay.
It's a system that you're meant to experiment with. If this doesn't feel right or resonate right, try something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really fully get it. So all you really need to know is your type, your authority, and your strategy. Even if you just know the basics about that, like who you are, how you interact, how your energy and your aura shows up in the world.
Yeah.
Authority and strategy. If we're vibrating.
Where do we find these things? Because I don't even think I know my authority. And is the strategy the dash?
So there's 5 types.
Yep.
So your overarching type is how you interact, like how your energy interacts with the world. Our
So
authority,
that's like your generators, your manifesting generators, productive. Okay.
and then each type has a strategy. So for manifesting generators like you and I, we're meant to respond to things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the green light. So if again we're in flow, if we are living our design, if we're following our energy type, things will drop into our awareness as opportunities, a job, a work experience, a pocket, like whatever. So our job is to respond. That's our strategy. Our authority is like how we make, it's our decision making tool. How,
Okay.
how do I know if this opportunity that's come into my awareness is the right one for me? So I think your sacral authority,
That's what popped in my head. So I bet you that's what it is.
you are like, so I'm an emotional authority, which means I have lots of feelings, and like I have to ride my emotional wave. If I'm super excited about something, it's not the time to make a decision.
Mm.
Low, it's also not the time for me to make a decision. I need to be in a neutral, calm state of like neutral confidence.
Yeah.
So like for me, when you think about a sales call, like you have to decide right now, you know, take charge of your life. If you can't make a decision now, then there's something wrong with you. Then you don't really want it. It's like, no, I just gotta think about it. So if you're not okay with it, like again, I will not and cannot work with a coach that doesn't understand human design, because
Yeah.
the level of individual uniqueness of each of us. I mean, there's what, 7 billion people on the planet. Unless you're a twin, there's nobody else like you
Boom.
ever. Like, just full stop.
Yeah.
So that sacral authority is our gut. It's listening. Like, so when you have people tell you, follow your heart. Well, people that have a heart-centered authority to make decisions, it's only like 3% of the population. So when you tell someone to follow their heart, but that's not what their authority is, you're giving them like, well, not crappy advice, but like that's not the way they were designed to make decisions. Nobody's designed to make decisions from logic or our head.
Yeah.
It's neutral emotion. Sacral authority is listening to that gut yes or no.
And
So
it's like when you get into it and start to
paying attention to your body, like, do I want yogurt today? Yes or no. When you start with the simple things and you train that gut response, then
yeah.
you know with a bigger decision, if it's like, again, if it's a full-bodied yes, or if you like, when that job was like, oh, we'll put you somewhere else, I was like, I felt it in my gut, like it just felt like an overwhelming sense of dread.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant then. Now I can listen.
Yeah.
Now I can say, nope, don't want to do that. Yes, I do want to do this. Or knowing my emotional authority, like people ask me, like, Jen, do you want to go to the movies in 2 weeks? You know what? That sounds really amazing. Why don't you check in with me about 4 or 5 days before? Because like,
For me, it's not even 4 or 5 days before. Like, give me 2 days before. And I used to think that was my anxiety. That was, and I had told myself this, your anxiety is so bad. My friends would get weirded out that I would be like, I don't want to plan that far ahead. I can't plan that far ahead. It sounds cool, but like I'll let you know closer to. And now I'm like, if they can't, if that doesn't work for them, that's totally cool. But then I'm a no, because I don't know how I will feel.
you need a decision from me in the moment, then it's a no.
Yeah.
You can feel free to check back in with me, but you would say yes to them, and then it comes down to it the day before, and you're like, I don't want to go, but then I have to go. I said I would. So
Should
then,
go.
oh yeah, I should go. I said I would. I don't want to be a flake. La 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 la. It's family. Well, but then you're taking this crappy energy of like, you don't really want to be there.
Uh-huh.
Like again, now knowing myself sounds cool. Check in with me later.
Exactly. And that it's not a negative. I think
No.
it's a condition I feel that we've done as a society, which is interesting to me. I don't like who started this and why, but that we're supposed to do all of those things that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of those shoulds of like, it's my family, or somebody asked me to, or they're my friend, or, and it's not a negative. to not be a yes in those things. It doesn't mean that I'm like, well, we're friends off, so no, I don't want to do that with you next month. It simply is just like, I don't know how I'll feel. If I feel up to it,
It's all a healthy boundary around yourself and knowing what you want or don't want.
exactly. And being okay with it. It has actually nothing to do with them, but they sometimes will make it to do with them when you're learning about your own boundaries.
I mean, that goes back to people pleasing. That goes back to poor boundaries. That goes back to like all the other ish that we learned.
Yeah, 100%. All the issues.
I want the people to feel bad. But then we're so willing to make ourselves feel bad doing something we like. If shit doesn't light you up, then it's a no. If it's not a F yeah, it's a no.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are doing things that don't light them up, and that's why they're miserable.
Oops. Not oops.
Hashtag.
It is though. It really truly is the truth. And because we feel stuck, I think a lot of it is feeling like we have to be stuck in this moment, or, you know, this is what I said I was going to do for my career, or this is what I went to school for, or it has a good pension has come up a lot for me in the last while. And I'm like, that is so outside my box that I'm like, I can't even imagine doing anything for a pension 40 years from now. 40 years you're going to do this for, or 20 years or 10 years, whatever that looks like.
If it's something that lights you up, then 100%. But there's so many of us walking around doing things that, like, and again, I think this is one of the invitations that COVID is inviting us to look at and examine.
Mm-hmm.
It's inviting people to look at, like, oh, if people can work from home and be more productive, working less hours and not having to spend 3 hours on a daily commute.
Weird.
Oh, there can be work-life balance. Oh, our employees can be more productive and happier.
I absolutely 1000% agree. I agreed before COVID. COVID just hit it home even more for me, and I just see it around with so many more people. And in some ways, I feel like it's stressing them out. And it shouldn't be that stressful for some scenarios. Like some people that are like, oh, I have to work from home now till January. You just finished telling me how you enjoy that you make your coffee.
Well, I think like reframe for have to is like, do you really have to, or are you choosing? Like have to versus choose to. I love that reframe.
Yeah.
No, I choose to because XYZ. And again, like, even with all of these different like pivot moments for me over the last 3 and 4 years, like
Yep.
COVID even is doing that for me, because I was still, while I was building a dog training business, I was still doing athletic training on the side because I was scared shitless that I wouldn't make it. Am I supposed to be dog training? Am I like, and even early on into dog training, like, I don't think this is it still, but it was better than what I was doing, right?
Yep.
So then being in coaching programs, like, we have to do this and you have to do that, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel good. And like, so that was still really, like, what flipped it for me for human design was having my first professional reading. I cried the entire time. I never felt like, and just like, not like bawling boohoo, but just like soft, like, I'd never felt so fully seen. And
So powerful.
And having answered her question of like, what's your big vision? And she just looked at me, she's like, Jen, you are living it. You are doing it. But I was like, but I don't, like, what? Are you sure it's here? Because it's, you know, that it's still those like beliefs that we have about ourselves, and like, or the comparison. But I want my chart to be like so-and-so's because I'm like, yeah, like, okay, there's 64, like, if I'm gonna bust into it like super fast, there's 64 gates or skills or traits that we can have.
Okay.
You can only have 26 of those expressed. just with the way that human design works. So
There's
you
only
aren't like,
so much of us.
well, yeah, there's only so many planets in astrology to correlate them to. So, you know, you have the gate of ideas. You're an amazing person to brainstorm with. I don't have that gate, but that doesn't make me less than. So
Exactly.
power somewhere else. I have gate 4, which is the gate of answers. You know, I have this, you have this like it's again, it's so individualistic, but we get so stuck in like, oh, but I want to be a projector because projectors do this, or I want to be this, or I want to have this skill, or you're told you're not good enough because, you know, all of the business
So
coaching.
you think that's where that comes from, is like not feeling good enough, that you want to be a different type or have a different authority, because it really comes back to those like first 0 to 7 years of not being good enough at something, or feeling like you should always be more.
100% you can link back, and like if you think about NLP,
Mm-hmm.
and get like, again, with therapy or with counseling, like every therapist should know human design, because
Mm-hmm.
you can so quickly get to the root issue of like looking at your chart or their chart, looking at their parents. Like say I have a defined throat and maybe my parents had open throats. So where in life, who shushed you? Who told you not to speak?
Yeah.
And it can be like, well, that was my mom or my dad or both. Okay, well, you have a defined throat. You're meant to speak truth into the world, like, but you were told at whatever age by whomever, and they had an open throat. So it's a directly competing energy. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
So you can so quickly like get right to the root of it.
That's very cool.
And then you're reconditioning, you're unconditioning, you're unbecoming, you're rewriting that pattern, that belief.
And I think that's the other piece to it, is that some people I know have looked up charts and then they're just like, okay, so I now know my human design chart. That's okay. But it truly is about the deconditioning process. I feel like I love the chart. You know, I think a lot of people feel seen or heard in learning about it.
Mhm.
It gives them power in that. But it's just like anything. You looking at the treadmill doesn't get you in shape.
Right. For a year, I was like, okay, great. I'm a manifesting generator. I apparently have a really powerful chart. Like, ooh, cool. Like, I get to be multi-passionate. I was like a squirrel, like not knowing what to focus on.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, like, not truly starting to experiment with it, like listening to my authority, like learning, like, I cannot make a decision about working with a coach on the call. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not how I'm built.
And, you know, that is how people are trained,
Yes.
to get you to make a decision. And it used to stress me out when I was starting out, because I am similar, right? Like, I don't want to make that decision right then. It doesn't mean I'm a yes or a no. I just need to like be able to process it for myself. I'm extremely independent, so it would piss me off when they would ask me if it was because of my husband, and I was like, no. But it's also given me, I think, compassion for people that I'm talking to, that I don't ever want to pressure them in that way of in any capacity, because I don't like being on the other side of that. And I think it helped me a lot to be not pushy. Like, it truly isn't about me if they need a yes or a no.
Yeah, I just think that there's a non-sleazy, soulful way to do sales.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if I'm gonna consider working with anyone, I want to run their chart.
I'll decide if we're compatible. I love it.
I was like, well, art, like I was recently on a sales call with someone, and it's, you know, I know it's a sales call, and it's like, how do you preemptively, like, okay, just so you know, I'm not gonna make a decision today. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay, here come the objections, here come the money stories, here come this. I'm like, nope, sorry, that's just not the way that I'm built. Oh yeah, I think I'm a generator. I'm like, well, if you think, then you don't know. So then yes, you know of human design, but do you really like, so what I'm asking is, can you work with me knowing my design and not force, like not like try to pigeonhole me into something that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, I'm just gonna need you. He's like, do you want my stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna need to run your chart.
And it's probably good for you to understand that side of it too, for them, so that you know why they're acting a certain way in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful, very powerful. Okay, where can people find you? They can email you.
They can, jrhoney111 at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that's my Instagram handle, although I'm learning to embrace Instagram slowly but surely. And the website's coming soon, but I don't know what that is. I have to feel into that some more.
Yeah, I love it. It'll be very exciting when it does come. Because if you can see her charts back there, she has all sorts of charts back on the wall that I got to see up close. And there is a lot of excitingness brewing in there right now. And I'm excited to see it come to the forefront.
Thank you. I am too. I am too.
Yeah.
We all want to be healthy, and there's a lot of ways to do it. And like that roadmap you were talking about, that guide, that is human design. There's so many layers, so many layers.
There is. Well, thank you for popping on.
Thank you. So
Everybody have a beautiful day, and we will chat with you again because you have much more to share.